So, interesting question. Are longer verticals better? So, you can play along with me, actually. Go and download MMANA. I'll put a link in the description. You can download it, and then you can play along with me if you like, okay? If you, by the way, if you install this, go to Setup and set the language from German to English. Otherwise, unless you're German, you'll have a problem reading it, understanding what's going on. So you can play along with this. I just want to have some fun. We'll do a ground-mounted vertical, and we'll raise it up high and see what happens as well, which is quite good fun. So this software uses something called the moment method, and it goes back to really clever people over the last 200 years that have developed the science so we can understand the maths about how an antenna works. So what we'll do is we'll start off, we'll put the ground here, and we'll start off with what we call a ground-mounted vertical. We just got to pick a frequency. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll pick the 10-meter band, which is very close to CB as well, so this is very used to them, but it's completely scalable. So it doesn't matter if we multiply everything we do here by 4, we can go from the 10-meter band to the 40-meter band. All right, so that's fine. So we'll start with a quarter wave. That's what we'll do. So this is going to be about 2.5 meters. That's all. Just, up here somewhere on the ground, and that's it. And we'll give it some radials, and we'll give it a reasonable amount of radials for the mathematics. More than 4, but less than 32. So we'll give it a few here. Some radials. Just a ground-mounted vertical. If you remember, coax comes along, the centre of the coax goes up the spout, and the braid of the coax becomes our radial field, and that's what we'll do. So you can play along with this. I'm going to the geometry tab, and I'm going to type in 28.5, and there we are. And on the Z2, because if you like, you know what an X and Y graph looks like? Well, this is Z, so it's up and down. So it's up off the ground 2.5 meters, give or take. There we are. And we need to fit the coax to the beginning of wire 1, which is the first wire, and it says it here, wire 1 here, wire 1 at the bottom of the base. And there we are. So we can hit the view tab now, and we can use our... How do we scroll in? Oh, that one there. I use that many different bits of software. So then we can hit the calculate button. We didn't have to go to view if you didn't want to, but we can hit the calculate button, and we can go into our ground setup. So we don't want this in free space. It's not in free space. We're not NASA. It's not on a perfect ground like seawater, or better actually. This is real. So now we can hit the ground setup. Now you can leave these as defaults. The chances are 99% of the time, it kind of, it'll baseline what you're trying to do. But we can put in 32 very short radials. And I'll tell you what, let's leave it at 16. That's about right, isn't it? And by the way, if you remember on radials, these quarter wavelength, instead of having quarter of a wavelength, you could have eighth of a wavelength. And I have got a conversation going at the moment with Rudy Sevens, who did this experiment years ago. Unfortunately, he's got a really cruddy internet connection, he told me, and he can't do Zoom. So I might have to do it on email and see if I could get him to even record some of his answers. It'd be really fantastic. So 16 quarter waves, same as 32 eighth waves. That's all I want to do. Right, 2.5. So what, we go to the far field plot, too early, we can't go there yet. What we can do is hit the start button, and it will tell us a few things. Okay, it's going to give us our SWR. You can get a bit paranoid with software SWR in the field. Everything's normally a little bit easier, right? And it's not so bad. And we can go to the far field plot. And if you remember, the one on the left is I think they call it the plan view. That's call it the bumblebee view. Okay, so we're flying along the top, okay, looking down at the antenna if we could see it. And then the one on the right, is the sidewalk, the pavement view, where we're standing there. And someone's taken a knife and cut it right across. Interesting, there's a nice little button we could do here, which, hang on a minute, you can't see very well. Oh, you can actually, that's fine. And that's what it looks like. So, yeah, fascinating. Whatever. So it's kind of a donut, a vertical. Right, so that's a quarter of a wavelength. Now, we can make this a little bit longer, so I think what we should do is plan to do a quarter of a wavelength. We can do a half wavelength. That's quite easy to do with an end-fed transformer. We could do 62.5%, which is basically a 5/8. And then we can go up to, we could do 3/4, because that'll tune, funnily enough, to 50 ohms. So we'll 1 1/4. 1 1/4. All right, we can go up from there. So that's fine. So we're on the 10 meter band. So I'm just going to, for my own sake, make a note of this. So that's going to be 2.5. That's going to be 5 meters. 62.5% is 66.25 meters long. 3/4 is going to be 7.5, give or take. And 1 3/4 is going to be 10 plus 2.5, which is 12.5. There we are. Right. So that's what we're going to do. How do we match this one? The best way of matching that, and I think we should get Mike on the channel. He's made a couple of these gain masters to match a 5/8 perfectly to 50 ohms without using a coil. So that would be good. All right, so then it's just a case of understanding where we should benchmark this, okay? And I think a good benchmark, I personally like 5 degrees off the horizon. It seems to be a moderate average between very, very tight, low gain off the horizon and fairly loose gain, 10, 11, 12 degrees off the horizon. So what we can do, we can bring our cursor down to here, and it says 175. I could go that way, couldn't I? 5 degrees off the horizon. It's telling me this antenna will be giving us a minus 6 dB. Right, okay, well, whatever. So that equals minus 6 dB. Doesn't sound good, but people are getting all the way around the world with minus 6 dB. It's only a number. Right? It could be a banana. Don't worry about it. Minus 6. I assume it's the same this side as well. Yes, it is minus 6. And interestingly enough, we could change the ground and give this 32 radials. Okay, start, go to the far field, and we will find that is now, we're 1 dB better off. You would never notice it. You've just spent a whole day putting in more radials. You can't tell 1 dB, all right? 6 dB is like an S point. Okay, so that's fine. We can change the length of this now. We've got a handle on that. So if we went to 5 meters and used a end-fed half wave, we could use a 64 to 1 transformer now, and this would be an end-fed half wave, okay? So you can see the impedance has gone up here. So 64 to 1 would get that more, a 49 to 1, sorry, would get that down quite nice. You can use a 64 to 1. 64 to 1s are better for top band, 80/40. And a 49 to 1 transformer is further up. Mike M0MSN published a video yesterday. I'm recording Saturday evening. I'll put a link to his at the bottom, about a half wave. It's quite interesting. So now if we look at this, it looks on the surface if it's better. So let's just have a look. We'll skim down to 5 degrees off the horizon, which is there, minus 5. So there we are, right? So minus 6, that's minus 5. Wrong colour, but it doesn't matter. Of course, an end-fed half wave on the 40 metre band is 20 metres long. That would be a very long pole, but there we are. So 62.5%. This is this kind of magic number, all right? 6.25. It's a kind of magic, and I'll show you why it's magic, because if we go here, we can see that on the surface it looks like we've taken some of the RF and squashed it below. In fact, what happens if you double your pair? I did a really good video about this using when I blew up balloons. I'll put a link to that as well. So if we come down to minus 5 off the horizon, 2.8, so we are 2.2 dB better than a straight vertical at the moment. Okay, so that's quite interesting. We could build this into a bit of a spreadsheet, but never mind. That was minus 5, 62.5% minus 2.8. So you've effectively gone from 2 so that's now you're half an S point better with a 5/8 on the ground anyway. What happens at a 3/4 wave? Because interesting, you've got to match this though, and you might have some losses on that. So if we went to 7.5, give or take, all right, we would actually get a match close to here. I'm just, ignore me while I press a couple of buttons. It's telling me at that length it would actually be, so we need to be a tiny bit longer just to make this 7.7. That's probably too much now. 1.74. You could follow along if you slow that down. 28.87 is its actual, and since everything's scalable, it doesn't matter. You get a great match on a 3/4 wave, okay? So now this time it looks like we've got a lot of wasted power going up. If we come down to -5 there, -3.2. So that was -2.8, that's -3.2. So we are, oh heavens alive, we are not even half a dB between a 5/8 and a 3/4 wave. So that you wouldn't be able to measure it. Okay, so that's a 3/4 wave. Now, interesting, although it'd be difficult to match, what would happen if we really were one wavelength? Let's just have a look. So would it be better if you could somehow match it? Look, see what's happened is that the lobes are completely missing the mark here, look. So if we come down, if we could match it, 5 degrees off the horizon, -8. So we've lost half our power there. Great if you've, I don't know what that'd be good for, International Space Station maybe, something like that. So that's moderately interesting. But watch what happens when we go a little bit longer. So this time we could go to 12.5 meters. So that's a 1 1/4 wavelength. And if you just bear with me, let's just see 29.7 it thinks it's best at. So we'll just keep the numbers happy. Remember, everything's scalable, all right? So this is it's a 12. Oh, it'd be like a signature 12.4 pole. This would be. So is there any gain down here? It looks terrible up here, but let's have a look. 5 degrees off the horizon, -5.4. So we're roughly the same back as a quarter wave. Now, interesting. I mean, what happens if we really did push the numbers out? 34.8 it's resonant at, 34.8. So how many multiples is this? 1 3/4, I think. Yeah, there we are. 5 degrees. I mean, this is very useful gain down here, right? Very useful gain indeed. All this, right up to 20 degrees, look. 10 degrees, 1.4, 5 degrees, 0.2. I do a product, I've just thought, actually, I do a product, it's the Nebula. It's an 18 meter pole, and it tunes on 10 meters, and I'm starting to think it's very good. But anyway, okay, well, we've done all that. I mean, that's quite interesting. I mean, yeah, okay, 1 what did I say? 3/4. You get a tune somewhere, you need to cut it and whatever else, you get 6 dB, like doubling your power and doubling it again. But let's go back to the beginning, and we'll go to 2.5 again. This time we'll raise it off the ground. Now, I don't believe I need, on the maths on here, we need to do any matching. We'll just put the ground here, one wavelength. Yeah, okay, fine. So ignore it's SWR, okay? It's completely irrelevant. All I'm doing is I'm just lifting it off the ground without a ground plane, all right? The wigglies is still going up. It's assuming we could match it, okay? So, all right, well, let's go 5 meters. So that's half a wavelength off the ground. What happens? So, well, we start to get some gain, look. So half a wavelength. So on 40 meters, by the way, that's 20 meters high, 65, 70 feet on 40 meters. So don't try this there. But if we lifted this quarter wave just off the ground, 5 meters, there it says -2.3. So if we go to 1 wavelength off the ground now, our quarter wave, we get to 0.6 dB. So we are now, we started off at -6, remember? we're now making some really good gains, but that is a wavelength off the ground. So that's why I say to people, if they're into, you want to get into 10 meters or 11 meters or 12 meters, a CB antenna on the roof up high will normally do quite well. Doesn't matter which one you use, whether it's IMAX 2000 or Antron 99, Gainmaster, they're all roughly the same. Just don't tell them that. Let's go up a bit higher. We go up to 12.5, so that is, now we're definitely into the 40-foot mark. Okay, what's happening now? 1.7. And then if we did what I did, so the feed point was at 16 meters on that big Evolution Skylab thing. Do you remember? I'll put you a little cutaway of it. That was basically a quarter wave, 3/4 waves for 15, 12, and 10. And it had shared radials. Okay, so, and the base of that was at 16 meters, which I think gave me about 3 dB of gain. Let's just have a look. 75, there it is, there, 3 dB. So that's very fine. I used that on some contest or other. We did really well. CQ Worldwide, I think it was. It was great fun, actually, really fine. So, okay, well, that's there's pointless going any higher. We could go 2 wavelengths, couldn't we? Just to finish the job, 20 meters. And what's happening then? Where's 5? 7, sorry. Where's 5? 4.2. So it all gets up. By the way, you can phase a pair of these together just for fun. Let's go back to 10 meters off the ground. I think we can edit, make stack, number of verticals. Here we are. We can put 2 together, and we can, the vertical space, I don't know, we'll just have 0.3. That looks like this. You can do that. You can ignore how you can do it. That's a video for another day, all right? But 10 meters gave us about 0, didn't it? 5. So yeah, we're getting a little bit better, 1.3. And if you could really take this up to some mad point of 16 meters, with a pair of them, yeah, 3.8. But then you're thinking, you're driving a vertical to the point where do you want to go with this, right? Do you want to go down a vertical now? I mean, because if you've got space for a tower, right, put an X-beam up, all right? Why not? Have both, actually. There's plenty of contest stations that run a vertical, and they run a yagi, so they haven't got time to spin the yagi around. It takes 30 seconds, to go from one end to the other. Click on the vertical. Okay, maybe they might lose 8, 9, 10 dB. Well, that's going from 1,000 watts to 100, basically. You can still get through, right? Because the guy's 30 over S9. Interesting, though, isn't it? Hope you had a bit of fun today. Just some musings from me. I see things in the comments sometimes, and I think, make a quick video about that. I think, by the way, in the last 3 or 4 months, I've kind of done a similar exercise to this. I apologise. That's just a different take on it, isn't it? So there we are. Well, you know the rules. We got next videos here. We got a playlist underneath it. The playlist is fun. Bit of comedy, bit of education, bit of fun. See what you think. In the meantime, enjoy your radio. Have a lovely day. Thanks for tuning in to my little program here, and I will see you all on the next video. Okay, all the best now. Bye for now.